Well, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folaring alongside my colleague Cyril Apaku. Cyril is he's a research person. You know, maybe he's chief of that department, but if you talk research, you hit Cyril.
Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Great to have you.
Thank you.
You know, we'll be looking at what exactly is the situation with IT, and by that I really mean social media, against the backdrop of NBC actually putting out a statement inviting applications from all broadcast organizations, including online media and social media platforms. So, you know, it does look like the federal authorities are playing hardball. This continuing action is against the backdrop of outcries, protests by a lot of people. But you know the history, don't need to go into that now. We might come into it as we continue with the program as to how Twitter, you know, is suspended indefinitely in Nigeria. What is the situation? What do they have to do to, you know, get opened up again? It's cloudy. You're not really sure. The foreign affairs minister one time, you know, said that if certain conditions were met, you know, Twitter might be able to come back. But then that has since been met with, as a matter of fact, we haven't given any conditionalities yet. Okay, to help us sort of understand this a bit better, our guest this morning, we're delighted to have Ahmed Yahuza. Now, Mr. Yahuza is of the Cybersecurity Department. He's an Assistant Director, Cybersecurity Department in the National Information Technology Development Agency. Good morning, Mr. Yahuza.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. So, we're trying to understand, we need to understand what the situation is. Against that backdrop, so far, that is accurate, that NBC has called for applications from all social media platforms, not exclusively social media, broadcast organizations, whether you're doing terrestrial, whether it's online. And then the part that Nigerians must have noticed is including social media companies. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's accurate and very commendable, I would say. You will agree with me, the current TV media stations we have, yourself inclusively, must have gone through process of registration, and you are bound by some regulations, some norms and values. Likewise, I think it is high time the online media too, who unfortunately just open shop and start broadcasting without succumbing themselves to some norms and values, some rules of engagement. So there needs to be a check to ensure that once you identify yourself as a news outlet, your information should be credible and you should be held liable to any information within your network.
Okay. As it relates, what you've said exactly is what all of these television stations, the terrestrial television stations, strive to comply with. But the new one now is social media platforms, which would mean Instagram, Facebook, whatever else. And in particular, I guess everybody, it all started out with Twitter. Twitter managed to incur the ire of the authorities. So speaking specifically about social media, that's a new one. Not that there are not other places where this is done, but you know, the vast overwhelming majority of countries perhaps don't, they just leave social media alone. So what could you give us something of a roadmap, please? Because the authorities have said that should you not be registered, should you not apply and be registered, you will be considered to be an illegal broadcaster. This is a bit different, shall we say?
Yes, as you rightly said, social media now is a global phenomenon affecting every nation. People are beginning to realize the power such media hold, the ability to influence a lot of people regardless of your background, your sound knowledge, the ability to affect a lot of people with just news is also an avenue for e-commerce. We have seen a lot of frauds being conducted on the social media. Unfortunately, the regulations are not very stringent, I would say, for such media. So I think it's high time that a sort of check is put on the activities of these social media. Most excuses social media organizations give is that they are not bound by the law of the nation they are operating within. But you will agree with me that each individuals can be identified by their IP addresses, thereby being able to geolocate them and determine their exact location. So with that respect, you can still provide some sort of regulations to information dissemination within our own airspace in Nigeria.
Okay, Mr. Yahuza, I'm here in studio. Maybe you can see us with my colleague, TVC News senior researcher Cyril Abaku. He has a question.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Yahuza. I would just like to cut to the chase, really. You know, when this regulation comes into force, can you give us a picture of what it's really going to look like? Is it that maybe somebody cannot tweet more than once a day, somebody may not be able to access his Facebook account in certain circumstances? What exactly will be the face of this regulation?
No, but by all means, you can tweet as much as you want, you can share as much information, but I believe you should be held accountable to what you post out there. You should at least verify the content that you are posting to a certain extent. You don't just make it open. Now, from the leader's perspective, one of the activities we are looking at is called an e-trust mark, whereby once you are registered with the necessary authority, you are given a digital identification, sort of a digital mark that will allay users fear that yes, you have been verified, you are a genuine, legitimate company within Nigeria. So also it goes for e-commerce. Most people buying on Instagram, social media, Twitter, most times you have to pay before items are delivered to you. Now with the introduction of e-trust mark, you can confidently know that yes, this entity I'm transacting business with have been verified by government and certified to be legit. So we're looking at even growing Nigerian market outside the shores of Nigeria. The West African market is very broad. So these sort of regulations are supposed to provide trust on these services for all that intend to use such platforms.
Okay, so all the other social media companies are going to have to sort of gear up for a new dispensation. But speaking about Twitter, that is currently, I believe the terminology is indefinitely suspended, according to the Minister of Information. Now, apart from that, the Attorney General is reported to have said, or is it said, or he has directed other people to so do, prosecute people who actually try to use Twitter or continue to use Twitter. I don't know, that area of the policy, do you have anything to share with us on that?
Well, like some quarters do propose, there has to be a corresponding regulation to that. If there are corresponding regulations to that, I believe it can be implemented. But I really don't think it needs to get to where we have to issue such a warning. It should be about Nigeria, not Twitter versus Nigeria, and then we end up having a division among ourselves. We should look at it as a Nigerian issue. We are looking out for the country. Most activities we do is in the interest of citizens. Nothing is being done to sort of to witch hunt or to cause unnecessary tension to the Nigerians.
Okay. Yes, but I agree and I hear you when you say it's about Nigeria. But that aspect of it, that anybody who tries to access Twitter, as you know, can still be done via some other devices. Is there any danger that they will be prosecuted? Let's say somebody uses a virtual private network and is therefore able to, still access Twitter. The rest of us can't, simply because it has been blocked. Now, the matter of such people might be facing the danger of prosecution. That is what I wanted you to comment on. Is that a policy in the works, or has it been done and dried?
Well, you should understand the danger of even the VPN. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are scared. The only thing is that you are sharing your data again, your whole data, your browser history, your online activities such as banking details. You are sharing it with the VPN servers. So of course they have unfettered access to your data. And supposedly you reroute all your traffic through the VPN to your destination, which probably be the Twitter. As it is, you will even notice now that anytime most traffic from Nigeria via VPN are being redirected to Netherlands. So we need to be aware that there's an intentional effort to ensure that our traffic are secluded, identified for, of course, is for e-advertisement and marketing. Now, with regards to your question of whether you are liable to be jailed if there's a corresponding regulation that clearly states that going into that breach a certain law in Nigeria, I believe the law we takes is natural course.
So, Mr. Yahuza, because you just touched a little bit on what I was going to ask, but let's get back to the e-trust map you talked about earlier. I'm specifically interested in, the way this whole thing works out. So, for instance, I suppose you are aware, and I think you've even mentioned it, that Nigerians are still tweeting. People are tweeting, maybe except for certain businesses and so on.
I made that comment, that people are still tweeting.
I am aware that people are still tweeting.
Yes.
Now, the concern is, assuming, without considering that this law came into force, where does liability really lie? Is it with the data? Is it with the companies or with individuals? And I still would like to know. Who posts that information? Yes, and again, I still would like to know what will then constitute, because Twitter would say they have community rules. So, for instance, before the president's tweet was deleted, or any tweet is deleted, somebody has to make an official report to Twitter to say, so-and-so post has been made in bad faith, and I think you guys need to look at it. So these micro-governments have community rules. Will it now be the laws being passed in Nigeria superseding and overriding such community rules? This looks like a whole gamut, but could you just walk us through how it's going to work, the e-trust map, where liability will exactly lie, and where community rules will, stand side by side with Nigerian laws?
Yes, like I said earlier, regardless of what community rules or law you have, you are always identified as a citizen of a certain country. And of course, you will agree with me that the law of that country supersedes any other additional rules or regulation that might be established by any community. So looking at that, I think it's bound on all of us, Nigeria, to at least respect the direction of the government, what the government sees as the best alternative for the nation. So it is safe to say that in such situation, the Nigerian laws, of course, supersedes.
Okay, and in any case, there have also been observers, commentators have asked, for instance, Twitter and its community rules and regulations. Why is Twitter making that call? It is the person that set the regulations. It is the person that determines that the regulations have been broached, and it is the person that can sanction you. All of this, on its own. So there are people who have asked that, why does Twitter get to be judge and jury and the prosecutor and just everything in its own case? So I have heard that, and I'm sure, no doubt, since I understand Twitter, the Twitter people, are ready to talk with Nigerians, and we'll see how all of that comes out. But before you go any further, sir, your agency, the National Information Technology Development Agency, not many people, I'm guessing, would have been aware of your existence. Can you tell me what you were established for? Because on the one hand, it is MBC that was inviting applications, so maybe there are a number of agencies, government agencies, involved in this kind of work. But explain to us what NITDA, N-I-T-D-A, is all about.
Yes, well, I make bold to say that Nigeria, NITDA is extremely popular now by virtue of activities that has been going on at NITDA. We were established in 2001, so we have been here for quite a while, and I will believe that, yes, our activities speak themselves. Let's look at the digital economy, which is the direction of the federal government now, where we want to ensure that all your activities, your government services to citizens can be easily accessible online. You can generate your driver's license online, you can pay your taxes online, you can request for your international passport. All these are services we are gearing towards ensuring that they are digitized and easily accessible to Nigeria. At NITDA, the main mandate of NITDA is to ensure the adoption and penetration of ICT in Nigeria. This has led us to make a lot of developments with regards to encouraging citizens to adopt technology. We have done a lot of awareness, especially on cybersecurity. We have also deployed a lot of ICT equipment in almost all the 774 local governments of Nigeria. We have actively collaborated with the academia and other stakeholders. So there's a lot of activities going on that I do believe, yes, effects of such initiatives are really felt worldwide. Just recently, there's a capacity development going on, trying to show up the capacity development of Nigerians, where we start from basic up to advanced literacy on different facets of ICT.
The other thing, I wanted to ask how, what you think of, well, maybe the way to put it is that you probably explain to us the interrelation, if any, of things like the NIN, National Identification Number, which every Nigerian who has a phone has to, subscribe to and must have. That's on the one hand. Then there's the, what's that other one that uniquely identifies every single device, no matter where it is? There is only, there's that one as well. IMEI, Abby? The IMEI thing. There are people who are saying that all these devices, from the NIN to the IMEI to all sorts of registrations, is so that, in addition to what you've just explained that we're doing, government can actually know who exactly is who in the internet traffic that is going on. Tell us a bit about that, please.
Yes, like you rightly said, the NIN is your national identification number. You can tie it to, say, your driver's license, your bank details, your international passport. It makes it easier for the citizen to at least have access to all its data from different government establishments that provide services to them. Now, the IMEI number is inbuilt from the factory, from the manufacturer. It just identifies devices. So once you go online, at least you have a footprint you can leave. I will have said the IP address, but IP addresses changes. So basically, once you go online for any device you connect, all these data are automatically collected to identify you while you do your activities online.
So in an ideal case scenario, there would be no anonymity anymore. Anybody does anything online with their device, their phone, their computer, if the authorities are interested in knowing they can actually pinpoint and identify an individual?
Well, it's not exactly easy like that.
Okay.
You know, you can imagine the number of devices connected to the internet within a minute. So really, all those devices will be, of course, accounted for. But really, is there need to sift through all data just to identify a particular person that you have been here or there? Really, it's just a lot of data and a lot of work to say you will start going through to identify person. But one thing is for sure, as soon as you connect to any network, you are identified and pinpointed based on your location. And even the devices themselves collect data on your activities, which is what these social media channels use to fine-tune advertisement to you. So in essence, the data you generate, which ideally you should even have value for that, you are not being recognized. And all these entities providing all these networks are just harvesting data and riding on the data you work on, which I think leads us to our Data Protection Act, which to a certain extent we are saying, see, if I should generate all this data, I should give you express permission before you share it with any company selling any of the products that they wish to advertise to me.
Indeed, yeah, I get that. But speak to the idea that people are apprehensive. Maybe it's because they don't understand it, and you've just said something critical, which is that it's hardly possible to monitor millions and millions of phone calls, text messages, and there might not even be any need to, I imagine. But people, especially those who are against the Data Protection Act and regulating, a law regulating all of this, they think it's an invasion of privacy, and you know, it's all about freedom of speech.
Yes, I think the Data Protection Act is even pro-citizens, because what it's basically saying is if you go online and you open your browser and you do whatever activity you need to do there, it should not be shared to any third party without your consent. So that data protection law is actually trying to protect citizens by being exploited. We have even looked at voice, where if you have your mobile devices within you and you happen to mention some certain words, it's being harvested and tailored advertisement is being directly sent to you. So there's a lot of harvesting being done, and we are trying through the data protection regulation to ensure that the exploitation of Nigeria at least is minimized.
Okay, it's interesting you went there, because that's a very, very important point. In fact, there's an ongoing sort of, I don't know if it's a debate or a conversation, but the fact, I saw an article, you might have seen it yourself, something about the way your mobile phone spies on you, even when you are not using it. You just spoke about that, and data is being harvested. Is it in your itinerary to sort of educate Nigerians about the more esoteric aspects of their beloved phone? There are people who keep their phone on all the while. It's on them all the while. Actually, you're a marked man for having such a device. And as I said, we are being exploited, because even when your phone is supposed to be off, it still can work depending on how it was. That is, work for secretly harvesting data. And it's not a matter of being hacked. Do you think we in Nigeria need to know a lot more about that very, very commonly, and get a bit more defensive in our use of technology?
Yes, definitely. We have to be careful how we connect online, because as you rightly said, almost all our data, from your geolocation, from your calls, from your browsing history, is being harvested. That is a fact that is on ground. So the best thing we need to do is to ensure that we practice safe security measures while we go online, ensure that most of the sites we access are genuine, as much as possible try to update the operating system from time to time, and sometimes you do get notification on your devices requesting for update on some of the application. Most of these updates are supposed to block discovered vulnerabilities on such devices. So it's highly recommended that those updates are carried out from time to time. In 2021, we envisage a lot of attacks, especially with regards to username and password. So we have already initiated awareness campaign to ensure that most government online activities adopt two-factor authentication prior to accessing any of their digital services online.
Oh, okay, yeah. The other thing that I wanted to sort of find out, because you've told us what your agency, NITDA, is all about. I wanted to ask, what part are you making much headway in combating, a scourge of internet use in Nigeria? That is the Yahoo boys, so-called. We read how they continue to defraud people online. Not just abroad, also locally. What can be done in terms of identifying these people? And because when you experts, when you come up with one policy, they're always looking how to crack it. They're looking how to get around it. So I imagine you people have to be something like 2, 3, maybe even 5 steps ahead of them. How well are you doing in this battle against fraudsters on the internet, exploring and exploiting the vulnerabilities of most ordinary technology users?
Yes, as you rightly said, the scourge of online hacking, Yahoo boys is really on the increase, and the sophistication has also increased. For the past 3 years, in collaboration with relevant government agencies, we have embarked on a national awareness campaign. So I make bold to say that the issue of BVN, phishing, text messages, and even phone calls have gradually gone down because there has been a lot of awareness on that, bringing awareness to people on how to not to divulge their details online. Now, nationally, there is a computer emergency readiness and response team, which the law has been passed and amended in 2021, as I'm sure you are aware. Now, this gives rise to various sectorial computer emergency response teams. So presently, we have the government computer emergency response team at NITDA, which handles cyber incidences related to government entities. And we have also worked with the private organizations to make sure whatever the regulations and policy we have tailored out is all encompassing. For the financial sector, the central bank is championing the sectorial SAT, which responds to computer emergency incidents within that sector. For the ISPs, we have the National Communication Commission, who is charged of responding to incidences within the telecommunication sector. Now, holistically, we have the coordinating body, which is currently with the National Security Advisor that coordinates all activities of this sectorial SAT. So a lot of efforts and prevention activities have been in place. A good example was the recent EndSARS when it happened, and a certain claim by some group to bring down government online activities. During that unfortunate event, there has been a lot of activities on our part, which we have ensured that most of these government services are protected. That's why I believe following that threat, there was no follow-up boosting by those hacking groups that claim to destabilize the Nigerian online activities as at that time.
Yes, so I mean, just listening to you now, this taking out what is wrong in that space wouldn't be a bad idea at all. But I just want to shift base a little bit back to where we began the discussion from. You did mention that the focus of government is with expanding the digital space, the digital economy. And of course, that's where you can create jobs, get more young people to be participating, in the economic process and so on. But I'm just curious, if you have been following the news, which I believe you have, we understand that in the past 10 days, that is between June the 5th, when the ban came into force, and about yesterday or 2 days ago, there had been a reported loss about 24.72 billion naira being lost. You know that Nigeria has a very big market in terms of marketing and sales and so on. So I'm just thinking, are we not concerned about the indefinite loss of jobs, the increase in unemployment numbers, and whether these laws we're going to be passing will not, one way or the other, push more persons out of where they would have been making legitimate earnings? I'm just a bit worried about job losses, unemployment, and the fact that we don't even know for sure how the e-trust map, which you talked about earlier, is going to impact on the question of liabilities. I mean, I'm just, could you just bring us, up to speed with what this holds for people who are doing business on Twitter, on social media, and how they're going to be faring in the wake of all of this?
Yes, I would rather say that it's going to create a lot of jobs. And honestly, I urge all Nigerians to embrace this initiative. We can't shy away that we'll continue to have hacking and Yahoo boys who will be successful. To those that have refused to at least listen and implement most of the awareness campaigns we have been making, and even the security measures we do advise on the print media, on social media. There are a lot of advisory we give out. Now, since there are a lot of jobs that has been created with ICT, at least by initiatives being conducted by NIDA. Take, for example, the data protection. There are a lot of data protection compliance offices that have sprung up. We have a lot of, when I say a lot, I'm speaking of hundreds of organizations that have an average turnover of 100 million yearly. So such organization will, of course, have a tripling effect where they need to have other services that individuals can align themselves with. Another one is the financial sector, where we have POS now springing everywhere. All those services that have been created. Now, the e-trust mark that you have brought up, now in establishing such a structure, there are going to be what we call verifiers. Of course, it's not the government that is going to verify all these various entities to ascertain that they are legitimate or no. They are going to be done by private organizations, who in turn will employ a lot of people that will go around in different localities to ensure that, yes, your businesses online have a firm location that can be identified. You have a credible account that has been verified by the bank. So as much as possible, what we create is a framework. We don't actually go into the field and do the work ourselves. We invite private partners to collaborate and at least provide such services.
Okay.
So you see, in that way, a lot of jobs are going to be created.
Okay, Mr. Yahuza.
They are being created.
Mr. Yahuza, stay with us, please, if you will. We'll just take a short break now. We'll be right back and we'll continue with this conversation. welcome back. And our guest is Ahmed Yahuza. He's in our Abuja studio, Assistant Director, Cybersecurity Department of the National Information Technology Development Agency. Thank you for staying with us, Mr. Yahuza.
Yeah, well, Mr. Yahuza, thanks once again for staying with us. I was just discussing some numbers with Uncle Yori earlier, during the break. I was saying that we have quite a substantial number of people, millions actually, about 33 million people online in Nigeria daily, and we understand. By the way, you can verify these figures for me. There are about 26% of them who are on Twitter, and a lot of Nigerians, for instance, I have a sister who has a shop online, basically, So I'm just wondering, this you couldn't possibly create that number of people to be empowered within 6 months, within 1 year, which means there still has to be a margin of people who will be out of jobs. I understand what you mean by saying that the NTDIA, for instance, wouldn't be on the field to do the monitoring and so on. You'll employ people who will in turn employ others. But I'm just thinking that there is no way you can match up this tidy number we have, in a space of 6 months, in a space of 1 year, which means we are still going to have to make room for people who are unemployed. Is this going to be the price to pay for national security, or am I wrong? I don't know. Maybe you can help us with that.
Yes. Now, if you look at the 30 million that is being said that are active users on Twitter, it is not the whole 30 or so millions that are providing, say, news outlet or selling activities. So, some of us online are just consumers. So you see, we are practically just there to conduct our businesses online. But yes, the few that are actually providing services such of news and e-commerce, of course the market has been restricted for those individuals as it is now. I tend to look at these two ways. Unfortunately, there is not enough time for us to start growing our Nigerian Twitter per se, because anything digital should be boundaryless, so that it can be accessible everywhere. So we are left to just having to tag along with what other nations have provided for us.
Okay. Twitter hasn't annoyed just Nigeria. They are, also, they've sort of ruffled their feathers also in India. And India is taking a very, very dim view. Yet I saw an article that was saying that, look, Twitter needs Nigeria, it needs India and those kind of countries to continue its business successfully. Now, I want to take you to something I've heard, which is that, and this is where I'm looking for verification from you, is it that the authorities are holding Twitter responsible for some of the, the carnage, the destruction, and the general confusion of the end-SARS incident when it happened?
Well, I wouldn't know the mind of that certain sector that are proposing that Twitter are to be held responsible for some of the carnages that happened. But at least we are certain that their channel of communication was used. As I said earlier, it is a global issue now. The social media, the networks took, I believe, most countries unawares. They have grown very powerful. They are able to provide communication as a touch of button to the whole citizens. But the issue is it safe to allow such networks within your continent, mindful that it can be used to spread fake news? You will agree with me that about 70% of contents online are probably fake. But the issue is most people are able to discern between a fake news, but the majority of users tend to believe whatever they see, hook, like, and sinker. And an example was a video that was recently posted some captioned it at a certain groups attacking a particular group, while actually it's not even a Nigerian incident. Upon investigation, we found out that this happened in the 90s and in a region very far away from Nigeria. But unfortunately, most people who happen to be online will tend to believe such news and unfortunately take action based on that fake news. Now, on the fracas between Twitter and India, Nigeria is just about 30 million. I think India has more than 100, close to 300 million users. So even on the hierarchy of list of most countries using Twitter, Nigeria is really way down the list. Yes, we have people like the US, we have the India who have high numbers, and of course government is beginning to realize that you cannot leave such networks unchecked. Even for the regular media stations like yourselves, you will agree with me, the advent of all these online media is just coming up. A person sits in a house, cook up stories, and take away a lot of followers for you. You put a lot of effort to establish a news outlet. Shouldn't they face the same regulation that you that have committed a lot of finances, effort, time in setting up your own establishment? That is exactly what we are saying.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed Yahuza, in our Abuja studio there, for taking time this morning to chat with us about some of these issues, and you shed light on certain areas. Thank you very much. Mr. Yahuza is Assistant Director.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Okay. So there you have it. There's still many Nigerians, but maybe they're beginning to hear what the authorities are thinking about it and the direction they want to go. It's not that there won't be those issues, but you know, at least we're now.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we still have Mr. Yahuza on the line because I was hearing. Okay, he's gone. He's gone now. Okay, so we're of course we're going to open the lines because I imagine a lot of people would like to comment on this whole matter. Yeah. Why is Twitter the judge and jury in its own case? Who gave Twitter the right to unilaterally decide what it decided? Community rules being what they are. Yeah, I know, and I have heard people say that. But you saw those rules, you signed up, therefore you're going to be subject to them. Mm-hmm. Well, so there's no, you know, it's not a simple matter. Chidi from Kafanchan, for instance, wants to weigh in on the matter. Mm-hmm. Good morning, Chidi.
Good morning, Chief Yori.
Good morning, sir. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, your guest.
Good morning to you, sir.
With also good morning to Mr. Yahuza.
Okay, he has left us now, but yeah, thank you very much.
Having listened keenly to all the explanations he has given concerning Twitter and some other social media platforms, I wish to ask, is there anything being done to unban the Twitter and at the same time assuage a lot of Nigerians in particular that use it as a medium of doing business?
Okay. Okay.
Secondly, what are they being put in place in order to stop the scam that are being used and the fake news at the same time that is being spread through these social media platforms? Thank you very much, Chief Yori. Have a nice day in Lagos.
Well, thank you very much, sir, for calling in, Chidi. Actually, Mr. Yahuza touched on these matters. But Cyril, are there efforts to, what are the efforts to unban Twitter? I think that's in the public domain because news editors, if you're keen follower of the news, you know that there are talks. Twitter has said that, it wants to talk and see what wants to talk. Yes. So we now need to see how that talk goes. And so that's where we are. So to that extent, I would say, yeah, there are efforts. Twitter is making efforts to get itself unbanned. They will have to persuade the Nigerian authorities that you people,
Except that it appears now that their sins are piling up by the day. We are getting to know more and more sins that they've committed. For instance, we are now being told that Twitter is directly responsible for the carnage that became the NSAS movement in spite of the fact that earlier we had been told talks hijacked the movement. So I don't know if Twitter was sponsoring those talks, who were burning things and, moving around in Nigeria.
Mazi Okorafor, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Our guest in the studio, Mr. John, that just left. But, sir, we have to look at two things. One, we are now on what we call digital era. And in as much as we are under digital era system forum, there is need for all of us to go to key in. It's just like that the program you are running now, people, the whole world, are just watching. People that are interested, what do they? When it is this time, they queue in into the program. Now, are we not benefiting? We are benefiting. Now, when we come back, we agree that there are people that misuse any opportunity. It's everywhere. Both Facebook name them. But the question now is this: in as much as the government are looking into all the procedures on how to handle it, as Unban or not Unban, we have to call on the authority concerned. The business people, if you go into advert cost, you spend more money when you go to the studio. If you come to the studio now because your own is international. It's not a local program. What do you do? You know the fee there is that. But if somebody buys data, it saves cost. Now, if the business has been booming, you see that many Nigerians will not complain. It's because of after COVID-19, so many things happened. It affected some human beings, it affected some businesses, it affected the whole environment. Now the world is talking about climate change. You saw what happened between the G7 when they're talking about the climate change, what they are going to do, how to solve the problem in Africa. Is it not the interest they have? How will they solve this? Is it not with all this digital era forum that is going on? So why must we hang on and be looking at the Facebook? Because Nigeria is a country that we have all it takes to cover the whole of African content. But what is happening? We have experts. Because if you are not talented and you are not very good, you cannot sit down here and be carrying all this program every day. It involves your energy, involves your brain, involves your emotional intelligence and everything. Name them. Whether you are just 247. But the question now that the federal government, I'm not calling them, to key into the system the whole world. Trump, everybody knows Trump as #1 president when he was in the office. He was suspended, I think Facebook, they said they'll give it 2 years till 2023. That's for Facebook. That of Twitter. That one is a bygone story. Okay. So only God knows it. All right. So let Nigeria come back and say, well, the business people, they are suffering, the business people, they are suffering. Twitter should come back. Government should find a solution to it.
Indeed.
Thank
you very much for calling in. Yeah, so I don't think government has said that we don't want to see Twitter again. But Twitter will operate like any other Nigerian citizen, corporate or individual. First of all, identify with us. Register, if you want, if that's what you want, go ahead and register. You shall register, we will know who you are, you shall pay taxes, and you shall conform to the laws of the land. Is that too much?
Taxes are a good thing, but it may be more than that. Because I think at the heart of this whole imbroglio is the question of the fact that people have used Twitter to spread information that government believes is inimical to national existence. So whatever content being spread on Twitter that will be considered a threat to the corporate existence of Nigeria I think is the core issue at stake here.
Yes.
So I think that is what...
Yeah, because Twitter itself decided what was inimical to its own core community values, alone by itself, his own lonesome.
No, I think it was the means of redress that was the problem, really. Because Twitter wouldn't wake up on its own to say, this content is bad. Somebody has to make a formal report. Unlike here, where if something went wrong, the NBC could easily write you a letter or something without waiting for a report.
Okay.
But in the case of Twitter, somebody has to make a formal report to say, this tweet is made in bad faith, and I think you guys should look at it, and then they come into...
Based on the numbers of people that reacted to that.
Exactly.
Mr. Yakub, good morning and thank you for holding on. Quickly now, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Good morning, Chief, and then Siri, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, sir.
I listened to your guest, and then he has said a lot of things. Chief, to me, this is my personal opinion. I think we must have a country before we have the Twitter or we have other social network. If it is truly because of the insecurity, and then to secure Nigerian citizens and to secure the life and property of this country, if it is truly, genuinely that the government take down this Twitter, so be it. And then I want to use this opportunity to tell Nigerian government, if as they take down this Twitter, and then they give Nigerian youth support to create their own Twitter communication handle. Chief Jori, I can bet you within 1 month or 2 months, in fact, it's even fast. Within a month, Nigerian youth are very, very intelligent.
Yeah.
They can be able to give Nigerian government another handle instead of them to join the Indian something. So, Chief Jori, Nigerian government should look inward. They should look at our youth because they can give us better than even Twitter. Thank you and good morning. God bless you, sir.
Indeed, thank you very much for calling in. So this whole matter about the part that Twitter played in the chaos that we experienced, Mr. Yahuza was telling us that it feels, that is, the authorities feel that somehow social media was, implicit in spreading what government sees as not true stories that then got us, the notoriety that is undesirable. Nigeria now was global for all the wrong reasons, and it is the position of the Nigerian authorities that those things were false. But Twitter provided the platform. Now, Twitter wasn't the only one, but for some reason, they must know what they're doing.
It was at the center of it all.
Okay, so Twitter was seen as being in the center of it all. There are all sorts of areas that we can't really say we know very much about, even assisting protesters at the time, with funds and bitcoins and all of those things. As I said, supposedly, allegedly, we don't know the details. I understand Mr. Ayodeji has come on. Good morning, sir.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Ayodeji.
Yes, sir.
Go on.
I'm glad to be on the show this morning. So I want to share something very quickly. Now, I do not think that you can run a digital world using analog thinking. Now, what I see is Nigeria is trying to create what used to exist in the 20th century and regulate the 21st century. Now, what I see is a government who is trying to give backlash to Twitter because of its founder support for enter. And like your other guest here, there said, it's like the narrative of the enter movement is changing already. They said that it was hoodlums that destroyed Lagos. I agree with that. But to say that it's just like backlash, I will tell you, in a sense, trying to bring a backlash. And like the previous scholar said, Nigerians can create our own. But you don't bring down another person's business in order to encourage them. We are supposed to copy people who do great things. If we want to copy India, we should not copy India just to ban Twitter. We should copy India in everything we do. If we want to copy China, we should not copy China just to listen or to also the voice of the people. But let us copy China to bring out 800 million people out of poverty. Let us join and copy China to do massive infrastructural development.
Okay, I get your drift. Mr. Jibola, I get your drift, but we are running out of time, and I think I get your point, and all the viewers have got it as well. Thank you very much for calling in. Time is against us. Any closing remarks for this? Because it's an ongoing thing. I think Twitter will come back, but it will come back not
perhaps one wing lost.
When you say one wing lost, it will now be operating under known conditions.
The Twitter bird will have lost one wing, and maybe but like the caller said,
sure,
we have entered the digital age. Nigeria cannot afford to play by analog rules. This is classic.
Indeed.
And so what we must do is to provide good leadership and ensure that government itself also goes on that same space to compete for ideas and not just feel that perhaps because the overwhelming majority of people are saying something against government, they feel threatened. That it's a place, it's a marketplace. Go there, compete with ideas and see it as a way, as a platform with which you can reorientate Nigerians. I think that should be the best thing for us to be doing.
Okay, well, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Cyril, for coming on the program today. And thank you also out there for joining us and watching and listening to it, and indeed calling in. We'll have to leave it there. See you tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Iyori Folari.